Welcome to another episode of Logistics Life, and today I have got a very special guest. This gentleman started a company in one of the softest markets, and when you hear why he started the company in this market, I believe this will be one of the most inspirational shows we've had in a very long time. Joshua, thank you for being here, brother. And I didn't want that intro to go too long because I really wanted people to understand one of the concepts that you just said to me, where you said, fear can be a massively motivating factor in your life. With that statement, I just want you to introduce yourself. I want you to share with the audience how you got into this industry, because you opened up a brokerage company in one of the worst times in our industry. I'm going to say right now is even more challenging than the 2008, 2009 fallout, for sure. So give us a little bit of background on yourself. Tell us a little bit about why you're doing what you're doing, because I think this will inspire so many people.
Well, thank you for the time. My name is Josh Haskin. I am the owner of Romad Logistics based out of Tennessee. And my background is prior military. I did 4 years in the military in the United States Air Force. And then I got out and I was blue collar. Man, I was working on trucks. I was doing renovations on houses. Anything that requires my hands to work, that's what I was doing for about 10 years. And COVID happened and I lost my job. And I was in a spot where I had children and a wife depending on me to bring money in. And I didn't want to be in this spot ever again to where I wasn't essential. That really hit me when they were saying that during COVID. So I went to school to get my degree in diesel.
Do you mean like
technology.
your job laying you off because you weren't an essential worker kind of thing?
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yep.
It hit me personally. It hit me personally when they were saying that. And so I went back to school. I used that time to go back to school and get a degree in diesel technologies and get a job to where if it shut down, the whole country was in trouble. That was my mindset. If trucking was to ever shut down, the whole country would be in trouble. And so that's what I did. I went 2 years of school, got my associate's degree, and got a job as a mechanic at a dealership, at a Mack dealership. And I built relationships with drivers over the last 3 years of doing this job. And all these drivers kept pretty much telling me the same thing. Man, these brokers are bad. They're making bad deals. We're losing money. We need honesty. And they're really pushing me to kind of pursue this. So about 6 months ago, one of my best friends from the military, he's a driver. And he breaks down a load for me. He said, dude, I just took a load 600 miles. I got paid right at $1,200. And the broker messed up and sent me the complete breakdown of the money instead of my part of the money. And I saw that the broker also made $1,200, and it made him furious. It made him furious. And he was like, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. I don't want to work with anybody else. I want somebody that's going to be honest with me and actually work for me. And about that same time we were having that conversation, I come across E-Carrier Check on YouTube talking about brokers and how we can do this. And I found a program here at my local community college and got my brokerage certificate. And the last 6 months, man, I've just been grinding, trying to get everything in order. And now I'm active and out trying to move freight for people and trying to help drivers and build relationships with shippers and drivers. That's what I'm trying to do.
Good for you, brother. I think, your perspective and the way you got into this industry, I think is very unique, because a lot of people get in this industry for money. Yeah. And it's solely about, I heard you could make millions in this industry. And the fact is you can. But real wealth is longevity, I believe.
Absolutely.
And to hear your story, and I mean, originally when we set this show up, I didn't even know your story. And for me, I look at a few things. So I look at the fact that I go into your LinkedIn profile and I see for like 4 months you've had this company, and I'm thinking, okay, this ain't the beginning of 2023. Like, this isn't when the market just started to fall. I mean, we're in a year's worth of decline, 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 hit the bottom like a dead cat and
Yeah.
bounce. And, and I'm looking at it and I immediately said to myself, okay, this guy's got something special that people need to hear. And the fact that not one time during that entire intro did you bring up the fact about money. You got in it to help drivers. So let me ask you this. What is your process right now that you're using from A to Z? And I'm hoping this process will shed some light for some people that might be having challenges to really help them navigate the waters that we're in.
So I am using quite a few things. Like you said, I've been active 4 months. I've really only been active about 2 weeks. This is really my third week of full time at broker, and I've been working two jobs for the last 4 months trying to get the money for everything. But
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I use eCarrier Check. That is the only software that I pay for right now, and I use it for leads to find shippers and to find
Mm-hmm.
drivers. So I will get on eCarrier Check and I'll pick a location on the map. Let's just say Louisville, Kentucky. I'm going to draw a 100-mile circle around Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm looking for, we'll just say rebar shippers, people who ship rebar on flatbeds. And I just start finding these companies down and I put them on a list. I try to find the decision maker before I make the call. I'm getting on LinkedIn. I'm sending connection requests to the decision makers if I can. And I'm trying to get an audience, get 20 minutes with some of these decision makers. It is tough right now. I am hearing, man, there's too many trucks out here. I've got trucks lined up at my gate every day just for the potential of having a load that day. That's what I'm hearing from shippers. We've got too many
Wow, that's
trucks.
interesting. I've not heard that one yet.
I've
Interesting.
been
Okay.
hearing that a lot around me. Now I'm right around Nashville, Tennessee. I've been hearing it a lot around me. I'm hearing the vendors that we currently have are doing a good job, and I'm getting 100 phone calls and 100 emails a day from people just like you trying to get loads. So it is very, very difficult to get an audience to get 20 minutes on the phone with somebody. So what I found that's working best for me is the LinkedIn approach. I find them on LinkedIn. I send a connection request. If they answer me, I try to get their email if I don't already have it. And then I just send in an email like, hey, my name's Josh. This is what I do, and this is how I can help you. If you're interested, let's have a phone call. Let's have a talk. Let's talk about this. And I'm getting more traction with that than I am with cold calls.
Mm.
Now, having said that, I'm a mechanic. I don't really know how to do cold calls. That's not my bread and butter. It's not my specialty. I can talk to people, but I get hung up on phone calls. They'll say something, and I'm like, "What is he saying here?" And then 20 seconds go by. There's a pause, and I'm trying to figure out this call. So what's working best for me is the email approach to set up a phone call and try to get it. And that's how I've been plugging away, man. I'm just grinding out here doing that.
What do you do to stay motivated, man?
I look at my children. I uh,
Um,
I have four sons, 13 all the way down to 9, and I've been 12-hour shifts, 14-hour shifts, 6, 7 days a week for 5, 6 years now. And last week, one of my sons is having trouble with handwriting in school. And I was able to sit down with him every day and go through homework and really help him. And I'm getting more time with my family. And that is more beneficial to me than any amount of money you can give me. So my thought process now is to keep this going, to keep having the time and the ability to be there for my family, I have to start making money doing this to be able to keep it. And that's really my goal. I just want to build something for my children that they can be proud of and get them
I,
out of work and trade jobs like my family's done as long as I can remember. out just hard work, sweat. I don't want my boys to have to do that if they don't want to do that.
You know, that why is going to take you further than anything else, my friend. Like it's to have a specialist. So here's the thing, right? And we both know it. If I can unsolicited advice, but if I can give you some, if you were to speak in the exact same way you just shared that with anyone on the phone, you would be one of the best cold callers on the planet. And
Really?
I'll share with you exactly why. Is you can tell immediately, Josh, that it's all coming from the heart. And that will go a lot further. Like, I hear the passion in your voice. I hear the love. I hear the softness, and I hear the fulfillment inside of you, all just with words. You can close your eyes and you can hear it. And when somebody's passionate about what they do, that actually is more infectious than any benefit you can tell them, any solution you can give anyone. It's knowing that you're so passionate about what you do that, like, literally, if I was a traffic manager to use it, I know you'd walk over mountains to make sure it was done properly.
Yeah.
Second piece to that is all of these contacts that you have that said get in, start selling where they are and really start building that, because you already have the drivers that love you and that want to work with you. You know, I honor you for what you're doing. I honor you for the mindset that you have. And, you know, it usually takes me with a lot of my students, 9, 10 levels to get to their why. And to just ask you and you come like zero hesitation, come out and just nail it right on the head. I think you're going to do great, brother. I think you're going to do great. And I think, you know what, you being a diesel mechanic, that story that you shared with me about, drivers coming in, succinct it down to like 10 seconds, and that's your intro.
Okay.
I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that doesn't say, I love that. And here's the reality, right? I mean, you said it very well 3 minutes ago. My incumbents are taking care of me. I have drivers like it's just the market. It's the soft market, right? It's the abundance of capacity in the soft market. Things are starting to turn, but they haven't quite turned yet. That's just granted. But you're going to hear that. The flip side of that, for me anyways, as I listen to your story, is you're the type of individual that anyone would want to work with. Well, let me rephrase that. We're very like-minded. So I would want to work with you. Do you know what I mean? You're going to have shippers that only care about the dollar. And if you can be competitive enough, then you get the business, right? But in the end, there's more. I believe now the pandemic has really opened up people's eyes. And I think there's more companies out there that truly believe in relationships. And I also think there's more brokers out there trying to keep the margins they had during COVID. So I actually think right now is one of the greatest times on the planet in probably 12 years, 13 years, for people to do what you're doing and really go and open something with the perspective and the drive and the concrete set of, rules or flow that you want to get into. So with that, a lot of people are moving towards email these days. I don't know if it's necessarily a matter of they think it's easier or it's, a way out where we don't get told no. But I'm a huge believer in email, and I'm a believer in email for a couple of different reasons. Is I think email is one of the most challenging ways to sell. And the reason I think that is because try and get your message across succinctly. Try and show the prospect that you have the ability to change their life in under 40 words.
Yeah.
It's difficult. And I think it's much harder than cold calling. you can lackadaisy email just like cold calls, right? You can, yeah, hey, you interested? Hey, what kind of operations you have? How do you move your freight? Like, these are just generic, you're wasting my friggin' time conversations, right? So same thing with email. We have emails that are complete spam, and we have emails that are directed and saying, hey, bang, 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 interested? No, thank you. Have a great day. And so what is some of the processes that you use? What are some of the ways you think through your sales?
So I was managing before I come here. I was managing a diesel shop. So I was getting emails all day from vendors and different companies and everything. And I go, what would I open if I was looking at these emails? What emails would I open up and what emails would I just send to the trash bin? And I'm trying to tailor my subject line and the length of my email to that. And I'm working on it. I sent out 60 emails on Thursday last week. I got 4 responses that I'm talking to right now. So I feel like that's decent, but
That's great, man. For sure.
I want more. I want more numbers. I
Of
want
course.
to, yeah. And so I'm working on condensing my actual message. And coincidentally, the show you did with Jared Ross and Nate, where you were talking about what are you going to do when the market flips? That's what I'm using as my subject line pretty much. Like, have you thought about when the market flips? Question mark.
Mm.
And then I go in, I'd love to talk to you for 20 minutes. Let's schedule a
What's
call.
your open rate? Do you know what your open rate is?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any software to tell me that. I'm just using Microsoft Office.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Interesting, because I'd be interested to see what I'd be interested to see what your open rate is.
okay.
Because, you know, when you look at best practices, if you will, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people say, 2 to 3 words for a subject line. But yet a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the emails I see come in with many more words. So it's something obviously that I'm testing as well, right? Because I find subject like with email, and I'm sure you know this, with email, it's like subject line gets them to open the email. The first line gets them to read the second line. The second line gets them to read it, right? And it's just like this hierarchy process that happens, or I guess more like this, right? Um, so I'd be interested to see what your open rates are, because I mean, if you're sending 60 and getting 4 replies, so I mean, you're in that 3% range, which I think for somebody just starting out is a really good reply rate. Specifically if they're positive replies as opposed to negative replies. But then on the flip side of that, negative replies are good because you're not wasting your time emailing that person again. They're not interested. Thank you very much. Have a great day and move on. Right.
Yeah.
So with that, what are some things you do during the day? When I asked you what your motivation was, you have your kids that motivate you on a hierarchy level. What is your process during the day in order to maximize your time, but also stay full throttle?
So I have to separate it. I have to do it in blocks because if I notice if I do 15 cold calls in a row and just I'm going to do cold calls today, by that 12th phone call, I'm too much of an alpha personality. There's a shipper going to say something that's going to irritate me, and I think if I was standing right in front of you, you wouldn't be saying things like this, and it irritates me. So I have to get off the phone and change it up.
So is
So
that when like you
really,
switch to email where it's not you're not necessarily hearing anybody, but you can kind of get your thoughts through on, for lack of a better term, paper kind of thing, and push them out that way?
absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
So the last 2 weeks, and I'm going to change it this week. The last 2 weeks, I've been doing 8 o'clock to like 10:30, 11 o'clock cold calling. Haven't really got any traction in the morning. It's I don't know if it's they're just waking up. If I'm not a morning person, that's not really my best times for cold calls. I
I
don't
got
know.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I do that till about 11. I usually eat lunch. My wife works from home as well, so me and my wife usually eat lunch from 11 to 11:30. And I'll come in here and I'll listen to one of your podcasts or something about freight for about 30 minutes while I'm prospecting. I'll be on eCarrier looking for shippers and setting up an email to send out. And the rest of that afternoon, I'm on emails. I'm on follow-up calls. If anybody pops up needing to make a phone call, I have that ability to do it. And I'm working LinkedIn, just trying to get my name out there. I want
Mm-hmm.
more people to see my name every day. And that's what I'm working on in the afternoons. Now, this week, I'm going to swap that. I think I'm going to do the emails, not necessarily the emails. I think the emails are better for later in the day. But I'm going to swap the prospecting and everything to in the morning and start doing cold calls between like 1 and 3 in the afternoon and see if that gives me anything. I'm just throwing stuff right now to see what
Mm-hmm.
works because I don't really have a gauge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is one thing that I've been for years. I've always paid attention to, right? Because getting people in a time where they're more likely to listen, I feel gives us an advantage as a sales rep, right? And it's interesting because I've asked thousands of shippers, and the average time is 10 to 12 in their time zone.
Okay.
So maybe a little bit of a tidbit of info for you that might help. And it's for me it was eye opening, but then when you start thinking about it, you're like, man, that's right. Because if you're in freight, right, your morning is check calls,
Mm-hmm.
booking freight, and putting out fires. Then by about 10:30, it kind of does this, right? Going into lunch hour, and then at about 1, it picks up. And then like the afternoon orders come in, right? So, and I've noticed that this happens on every time zone, right? So
Mm-hmm.
afternoon orders typically get pushed out, receivings in the morning, shippings in the afternoon. A lot of companies operate in this fashion, or orders drop because customers are preparing the orders, submitting them, then orders drop in the system for picking in the afternoon or for the next day, that kind of thing, right? So there's that aspect of it. The second aspect of it is listening to what you just shared. Um, I could tell you're in that 1 percentile already because so many people don't understand. And for all of you watching and listening right now, if you're going to get one thing from Josh, here's the one thing: he knows himself. And if you don't know yourself, please do yourself a favor, because here my question to you, Josh, is coming. Get to know yourself. If you notice what Josh said, like I have an hour and a half, and then people start getting under my skin. So he's not allowing himself to get to that point where he's even going to ruin a sales call because of a tone of voice or maybe an internal frustration that you're trying to mask, Josh. You're just saying, no, I'm cutting it off. I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to listen to a thought-provoking, an interesting, a really revolutionary podcast, whether it be this one or any other podcast that boosts your mental state up. And then you're going to stop and you're going to do some prospecting, but on more of the tech side where you're filtering and searching while you're ambiently listening to something feeding your soul, right? And
Mm-hmm.
feeding that overarching education point. And here comes my question. How did you discover this about yourself? And was there some kind of like challenging thing you noticed, or was it like I don't know, a YouTube video? I mean, I learn a lot on YouTube. Everything I learn, I educate myself on YouTube. Like, how did you come to the realization that, okay, Dan, I got like literally this amount of time, and then I need to move on?
Man, it's from previous jobs. Like I said, I was in trades. I've done construction. I've done concrete. I've been in factories.
But I mean, you
I
can't just leave concrete an hour and a half in, especially if it's settling and you got to skim it
yeah.
and everything, right? So, like, what really was it? Was it a situation, or was it just kind of saying to yourself, okay, maybe I need to try this, and it worked? Like what there? And what I'm trying to dig in here is like, what is that revelation that hit you and went, oh my god, like I'm missing, or I'm losing, or I'm destroying opportunities is probably a better word, just because I've had enough of this individual or of this process.
Yeah. So it comes from that. It comes from trade, being out there and not being able to leave with the concrete and being around people that I don't want to be around. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be around you. And I will pop off at the mouth once it gets enough for me. And I know that from the trades. I know who I am. Maybe it's a little bit of the military in me as well. But I know I'm going to butt heads with somebody. And if I know that, I want to keep it as professional as possible and as little time around each other as possible. Let's get business done. Of course, business is first. But I don't need to have a conversation with you about what you did this week or anything like that. And I feel like in this job, I'm in control of that schedule and I can tailor that schedule to how I'm feeling that day. And if I had something bad happen to me the night before and I get up, I'm not getting on the phone with people just because I know my mental is going to run something. I know something's going to be said that I'm going to take the wrong way that may not even be said in the like that. I may have just took it the wrong way and I'm gonna blow. So this was just it's just time, years of being in situations like that. There's not just one situation that I could tell you that this was it, but it's multiple situations over the course of time that goes, okay, I'm not a people person when they push me like this. When I'm in these situations, I don't react well having to communicate. And I just
Okay,
know that.
that is fantastic. So here's another question for you, because I'm sure there's people out there right now listening, watching, that are really resonating with that. Like, just that have that same flow, that same perspective, that same everything. So in logistics, share with us some strategies you have used, that you're going to use in challenging times. And when I mean challenge, I don't mean like a soft market where freight sales is challenging. I mean a customer's really coming down on you for something. Um,
Mhm.
you're finding carriers are late. People aren't picking up on time. You're not maybe not being told the truth, right? Like all the really bad pieces of I think any career, because I think in every career, no matter which department you're in sales. And I think in any career, no matter which department you're in, you're subject to scrutiny from customers, from colleagues, from management. What are some of the things you do, tell yourself, processes you use, strategies you use to keep your cool? Because
That's
once you get a
easy.
customer, you obviously don't want to lose them. Some customers react in situations instead of respond. And so, what are some of the things you use to help you through those situations? Being so like, because I could tell just by the tone of your voice and your demeanor and who you are as a person. Um, this is something that's on your mind, and you're
Mhm.
very aware of it. So what are you doing to kind of counteract that in times of need and challenge?
So I read a lot. I read a lot is
Mm,
how I am able to notice these things in myself. It's not I'm a smart person and I just know these things. I read a lot, I listen a lot. But the situation, I guess it depends on the situation, like what is going on. If it's something that my driver has done that's caused this problem, obviously I'm going to contact that driver and see
yeah.
what is going on, what happened. You know what I mean? And if it's where it's just the shipper doesn't like these drivers coming in there, then I'll find another driver for them and try to move pieces around. I feel like that's what we do. We're putting a puzzle together and we don't really know where the pieces are in this
Mm,
industry. And I feel like honesty is the main thing. If I can get on the phone with you and you can go, hey man, your trucks, you had four come in today and they were all an hour late and they backed up the dock and it caused a lot of problems and it's frustrating. I can't have this happen. If you're going to approach me like that, then I'm going to have empathy to that. And I completely understand that. Whereas if you come to me and you're screaming at me and yelling at me, hey, this is a problem, I'm still going to have empathy and I'm going to try to take that conversation, de escalate it, and get it down to where we can have a conversation like this. And if that's not going to happen, then maybe I don't need to work with you. And we'll get these loads delivered. We'll fulfill our commitment, and then we'll back out. And that's just how I think. I feel like the people that are going to help you and are going to be beneficial with you are going to understand if something happens and work with you to fix these issues versus the people that are just driven on numbers they're just going to blow up. And there's some people you can't help. Some people, there just doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to be able to help. And I feel
Mm,
like that's the key. Just being a human being, being able to be human beings with each other, I think can alleviate a lot of this.
I agree. I agree. And the fact that you have your ICP pretty much nailed down without even calling it an ICP, I think is super cool. And the fact that, if you're being treated like X, you're not going to deal with the individual.
Yeah.
And again, for all of you watching and listening, think to yourself, go back through this conversation, rewind this. When has Josh brought up money? Something to think about, right? Really something to think about. Any closing remarks or words, Josh, that you have for everybody out there that might be going through some challenging times, might be looking to you and say, wow, man, like, thank you. Your message really resonated with me.
Man, I appreciate it. I appreciate being able to talk to people 100%. I guess the biggest thing that I would say is believe in yourself and try to surround yourself with one or two people that actually do care about you and love you and want you to succeed and go forward. Because those are the people that can pick you up when you're like, man, I just ate it today on the phones and maybe this isn't for me. When you're thinking like that, you need somebody to get in your head. No, you just had a bad day. It's a bad day at work, and pick it up and figure out what you did wrong and fix it tomorrow. And if I didn't have my wife around me doing that and my friend that I was telling you about earlier that's a driver that's telling me that, man, I'd still be at the shop working, changing transmissions, doing engines. I am my biggest critic. I can destroy myself at times. If I'm left on my own by myself to sit there and think about what I did good or bad, it's all going to be bad out of my head. I didn't say this right. I didn't spell this right. I didn't phrase this right. I'm not working hard enough. My kids are dependent on me. You're making them. That's how my mind works. So if I didn't have people around me that love me, that can get me out of that mindset, I'd be destructive. I'd be destructive. And right now, with the market how it is, it's easy to get in that mindset. So you have to take the few moments that you can create each day to either go sit with your kids and listen to their day, or eat lunch with your wife or your brother or sister, whoever it is, and be able to decompress from that before you go back. And that's just what I believe. That's how I feel like I'm going to be successful. If I create an honest product and I'm honest in the way I present it, then I feel like it's just a matter of time before it blows.
You know what, my friend? I couldn't be happier that we connected, and I couldn't be happier that something came around and said to me, call him and get him on the show, because you need him on the show. And, I'm going to start listening to that more, because you inspired me during this talk. I honor you for everything you're doing. And my man, if there's anything I can do to help, you let me know, and I'm there for you, brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And man, I look forward to having more conversations with you and sharing success with your failures. And man, you're doing a great job for what you do for this
Thank you.
community from what I see. And we really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, my man. I've seen way too many really good people not create a career and life of their dreams in this industry. And if I could do it, trust me, anyone can do it. And it's just a matter of the philosophy, and that's our mission, right? To bring these ideas and strategies to the table, and hence the reason we rebranded the show, because normally the show was all about, high level sales and productivity, and it's like, but we need to hear from individuals like yourself that's saying, you know what, I see a gap and I'm being told these things and I want to do this because I want to help. And I think if more people had that belief, this industry would be so different, and I mean, all you got to do is go to COVID, when it started, and the amount of people that jumped in for a paycheck. And don't get me wrong, like, listen, money isn't important, but it's just as important as air.
Yeah.
Right? Like, call a spade, right, Josh? I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Everybody, Josh didn't mention money once, but he did say, I need to support my family, my children, and that takes money. right? So there is an underlying, but if money is the only motive, this is where things get, and this is where your guy that, you know, paid him $1,200 because it was 600 miles and paying him $2 a mile. The average cost is $1.54 a mile, so he's making 45 cents a mile on 600 miles. He's nowhere close to $1,200, and his frustration of a broker sitting in an office where, you know, the industry saying is they rent everything except pens. It's like, you know, he's making all this money, right? And I could see how that would piss everybody off because, you know, you've been in the trenches, right? You were in the military, you've been in the trenches, and, you know, people calling out what you do that's never seen it, done it, or lived it, probably pisses you off. I know it does for me when people
Yeah.
call out things that I've been through with zero knowledge of it, zero education on it, and even less experience on it. It's like, no, I'm sorry, you don't have the right to call me out on that. And, you know, for you to not just sit back, and this is the big thing. I mean, for you to not just sit back, but for you to say, you know what, I'm going to move forward and I'm going to make it work and I'm going to leave a legacy behind. I honor you, man. Way to go, Josh. Way to go.
Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome.
Like I said, I appreciate you. And anytime you want to talk or have me on here again, I am free.
Well, we are going to do that. In closing, all of you, go out there, make every call educational, and crush your sales. And rewind this. Pay attention to what Josh said. I think it could really add some huge value to you. Take care, everybody.